F-35 or Su-57, what does India need? The world was taken by complete surprise when, during Prime Minister Modi's state visit to the United States, President Donald Trump announced with a flourish that India would be buying billions of dollars worth of American defense equipment, and he specifically mentioned the F-35 Lightning 5th generation stealth fighter. Now, this came as a big surprise to the world because, as we all know, previously the United States had refused to sell this aircraft to India. It was not even on offer. What were on offer were the F-15, the F-16, the F-18. These are all aircraft of the 1970 era. And in fact, instead of the F-16, they offered us the souped up version of the F-16, the F-21. But the simple fact is that America had given F-16s to Pakistan as far back as 30 years ago. So offering it to us now was not really a very great big deal and hadn't enthused the Indian Air Force very much. The other simple fact was that America had given the F-35 Lightning to Japan, a Quad country, to United Kingdom, to Israel, a country very friendly to India, etc. But it was refusing to even put it on offer. Now Donald Trump had put it on offer, and that had set the cat amongst the pigeons. The Pakistanis are very nervous, the Chinese are upset, though keeping quiet, and there has been a big stir in the geopolitical circles. So what exactly is this F-35 offer of the Lightning, the 5th generation stealth combat cutting edge frontline fighter of the United States being given to India? Is it an extension of Marco Rubio? When he was the senator in the American Senate last year, he had brought in a proposal, a bill in the Senate that India should be treated as a non-NATO ally and should be given weapons on par with NATO allies and even Japan. And I think this F-35 offer of stealth aircraft is in continuation of that line of thinking. So do we need the F-35? Do we need the 5th generation stealth fighter aircraft, or will 4.5 generation aircraft do for India? Sir, we need the 5th generation stealth fighter aircraft, and we need it now. Why? The simple fact is that China has 300 J-20 and J-35 5th generation fighter aircrafts in its inventory even today. It has just unveiled the J-36 6th generation fighter aircraft, which neither Russia nor America has claimed to produce or has produced. They have shaken the world with this exhibition of the J-36 6th generation fighter aircraft, well ahead of the Americans, well ahead of the Russians. The other factor that we just cannot afford to forget is that by 2035, China will have 1,000 5th generation fighter aircraft. Its entire air force, almost of 3,000 jets, is already 4.5 generation. They have phased out all second, third generation fighters of the early eras. They have a brand new spanking modern air force, all full of almost 2,000 plus 4.5 generation fighters, 300 plus 5th generation fighters, likely to go up to 1,000 5th generation fighters. Here comes bad news. China has offered to sell the F-35 fighter jet to Pakistan. The negotiations are in a very advanced stage. In fact, Pakistani fighter pilots are now in China getting trained on the J-35 5th generation Chinese fighter. Period. A defunct, economically defunct nation like Pakistan, which is going with a begging bowl from the IMF to China to Saudi Arabia to Qatar, etc., taking loans to pay off earlier loans, is going to get a J-35 fifth generation fighter aircraft ahead of the Indian Air Force. The Chinese are ahead of us as it is. Now even the Pakistanis by next year will be ahead of the Indian Air Force, and that constitutes some kind of a joke. It's a very bad joke and it hurts because it is a threat to India's national security. And we can't take it lying down. We can't sleep over it. You know, as it is, India has been sanctioned an air force of 42 squadrons, right? That was before, from a two-front threat, we graduated to 3-front threat, and now 3.5-front threat if you add the local cartoon networks. The simple fact is we need a 45 squadron air force at the very bare minimum. We have a 30 squadron air force. Now people are saying no, it is 31. Okay, so 31, we need 45. As it is, quantitatively you are at a big disadvantage, and we have landed ourselves up courtesy the bitter infighting between the opposition parties and them trying to make political mileage out of every deal, fighter deal, and earn money. The Congress had a penchant for earning money on every defense deal. They have delayed the whole acquisition process. Whatever it is, the ground reality, cold reality today, cold water that hits us in the face is that Pakistan, a fatichar, a useless country, a defunct country, moribund country on the brink of economic collapse, civil war, will introduce fifth generation fighter aircraft in South Asia faster than India. So, do we need fifth generation stealth fighter aircraft? Of course we do. Where is the bloody doubt? So, next comes the logical question. So, which fifth generation fighter aircraft? The Su-57 has been on offer to India for a long time from Russia. In fact, we were cooperating in the joint production and development of this aircraft when we had disagreements, and we walked out saying that what the Russians are producing is not stealthy enough. Well, that Su-57 fighter has matured. It has seen combat service in Ukraine, and there are about 40 of these fifth generation stealth aircraft in the Russian Air Force taking part in combat ops even as we speak. They've also produced an Su-75 export version of this aircraft, but the Russians have offered us this aircraft again once they saw that America was trying to sell the F-35s to us. They have made a counter offer that they will give us the Su-57, and they are saying that along with it they'll give us the hypersonic air-to-air missiles. That makes it quite a deal sweetener. And they said that they will allow us to permit us to manufacture this in India. You see, the cost of the Su-57 is about $50 million a piece, compared to the F-35, whose costs are $80 million to $125 million, depending on which variant you go in for. I'll talk of that in more detail a little later. But the fact of the matter is that the Su-57, they said they will let India manufacture it in the country as heretofore, that they will help us in the development of our AMCA project, and that they will give us, along with this missile, the hypersonic air-to-air missiles, which they have developed. So, it is quite an attractive offer. Yes, there are the critics of this deal who say that this is not really, stealth capabilities are not very good, etc., that it's got some Chinese components, this, that and the rest of it. But the simple fact is it is much cheaper than the Lightning, number one. Number two, they will allow you to manufacture it in India, they will transfer technology. and they'll give you the hypersonic missiles along with it. Then they said they'll help you make the AMCA. So it is something to think about. You cannot shrug off an offer like this so easily. It may not be as good as the F-35. Yes, okay, granted. But do we have to fight the Americans? We have to fight the Chinese and the Pakistanis, and I'm dead sure this aircraft is better than the J-35 and even the J-20, with both China and F-35 the Pakistanis are likely to get next year. So it is better than them. Now let's talk in detail about the F-35. It's now on offer. But when the offer was made, in the press conference, Donald Trump said a very significant sentence. It will ultimately be made available to India. Ultimately. Now what does ultimately imply? Ultimately implies that it is not being given now. Not being given in the here and now. Over a period of time, I suppose when they make their offer, then we evaluate that offer, evaluate the aircraft, then the whole process, rigmarole is gone through, then we get into the negotiations. That could easily take 10 years. In 10 years, the AMCA hopefully will also be ready. So why do we need the F-35? Then we need the F-35 as a stopgap immediately. The F-35 is of use to man or beast if it is given to you immediately, because next year the Pakistanis are getting their J-35s. So you need a stopgap measure till our AMCA is developed, providing we get the GE 414 engine, for which we have already paid up cash, initial part of the deal. But for 2 years we've got zilch. So if you get that, then it will be ready by 2028, right? Otherwise, we may have to go in for the French Safran aircraft engine, jet engine, which is a kilo 110 Newton of thrust, better than even the F-414. But if the Americans ditch us, and we are now very hopeful that with Donald Trump coming back, that won't continue. But we have to wait and see. How many of the F-414, F-404 engines now stream in? At what pace? At what rate? Otherwise, it's a big stab in the back for our Air Force. So, that is the problem. Is the F-35 coming soon? The Americans have produced almost 1,000 F-35s, almost 1,000 F-35s. They've given it to Europe, they've given it to Japan, they've given it to United Kingdom, Israel, etc. And now they've put it on offer for us. So we are awaiting, we have to await the formal offer. What exactly, in what time frame? And the other factor is that there will be lots of caveats to this aircraft, right? They had refused to sell the F-35 to Turkey because Turkey had gone in for the S-400 anti-aircraft missiles like India has gone in for. So it's a big thing if they are not prepared to give it to Turkey for those reasons, but are prepared to give it to India. There must be some catch to it. And that catch may be that they would want you to buy, wherever the F-35 is deployed, they would want you to buy the Patriots, which we had refused earlier. Maybe that is the catch. Or they will give you a derated version of the F-35. Or they are going to have end user agreements, stiff clauses they'll put in restricting your sovereignty in the use of this aircraft. You will have to tell them where it is based. You will have to allow inspections. You will have to ensure that no changes are made in the core, in the source codes, in the other codes, and no tampering is done on the equipment. If you want to fire your Astra missiles with it, your BrahMos missiles with it, well, you will have to take the American nod before you fit those systems into that. And at the end of it, they will have a clear say. Chaliye, all that we will have to await the American concrete offer in writing. This is what we are giving you. Will they allow it to you to manufacture it in India? I have serious doubts and reservations that they will. Will they at least let you set up an MRO, repair and maintenance and overhaul organization in India like the French are offering for the Rafales? So will they set up some kind of a project like that, allow you? I have my doubts. I have my doubts. They are very chary on this is cutting edge technology, and they are extremely chary on sharing cutting edge technology or joint development, etc. We've been asking for that we would like to develop with you the 6th generation fighter. This as a base, as a takeoff. So one of the options is that we go in as a stopgap measure till our own AMCA comes. We should not kill the indigenous AMCA program for going in for the F-35. It will be a disaster. But if we want to continue with the indigenous AMCA program, then we need a stopgap. 1 or 2 squadrons. 1 or 2 squadrons of the F-35 can come in to fill up the gap, to make sure that we have something to counter the Pakistani and the Chinese J-20s and J-35s with our own this thing, and it will be big prestige thing for the Air Force. But like I said, there are caveats, and let me cover those caveats. First is the cost. This F-35 aircraft comes in 3 variants. 3 variants. One is the F-35A, which is the Air Force variant. It is a normal standard aircraft. It takes off on the runways, and the cost is around $80 million per piece, right? Then there is the F-35B. This has been made for the American Marine Corps, and this has got VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing capabilities, and it can land short takeoff and landing, plus it can also do VTOL. So this is about $125 million a piece. $125 million a piece. The F-35C is the naval variant. It is entirely VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing, like the Harrier jets we used to have earlier on the Vikrant, right? And that is about $120 million a piece. So it's a bloody expensive aircraft. The Su-57 by contrast would be around $50 million. That is what is being speculated in the media, $50 million. But then they let you manufacture it within the country. They will give you the hypersonic missile technology along with it. They will help you develop your AMCA. Those are the sweeteners. Those are the trade-offs. But the Su-57 is not as good as the F-35, period. There is no denying that fact, because the stealth-wise it is superior. So let's just explain to the people what is a 5th generation aircraft. 5th generation aircraft has got stealth capabilities. That means it's got special anti-radar paint. Its design is such that it has no angles, and it deflects the radar waves when they come. So you can't detect this on your radars. You may detect it on your long range detection radars, but your battle radars can't lock on to this target. The radars of a surface to air missiles which lock on to a target, they can't do that. Only the long range observation radars can pick it up. Yes, that has happened, but you can't lock on to this. So that is the stealth capability. That is why some Indian Air Force people are feeling that the Su-57 really doesn't have that kind of stealth capability that the F-35, F-20 have, Raptor and the Lightning have, which is the only true 5th generation aircraft. Then a 5th generation aircraft has super cruise capability. Without firing the afterburner, it can achieve supersonic speeds, twice the speed of sound almost, and it can attack and down AWAC aircrafts of the enemy. The moment it detects, it can super cruise, get there so fast, fire off its standoff range missile, destroy the AWACS, clear holes in the sky. Destroy the enemy's air defense, very vital link, the AWAC, which is there. So, with this we have to see that can we afford it. If we go in for the F-35A version, the Air Force version, that is I think what will be offered to us. And if we go in for the F-35A version, that's $80 million a piece, and even 2 squadrons would cost us over $3 billion just for the aircraft. Now, with the aircraft, you have to buy the weapon systems, the air-to-air missiles. These currently have 2 air-to-air missiles. This is more of a ground attack aircraft. You can drop the bunker buster bombs, etc., etc. So, if you want to fit, let us say, 4 air-to-air missiles, we have to go back to the Americans. They have to permit you. They will not permit you to tinker around with their basic aircraft. They say it is good enough as it is. Nothing you need to do with it. If you want to fit the Astra, Indian homemade air-to-air missiles, American permission. We want to fit the BrahMos air-to-air missile, American permission, etc. You can't tinker around with this aircraft. You can with the Su-57, right? Because there we have that thing with the Russians. We have been doing it with their earlier aircraft also. The Su-30 carries the BrahMos, Su-30 carries the Astra now, etc. It's been retrofitted. So, the other factor is the hidden costs. These are the upfront costs. Hidden costs of this aircraft are the computers. Those you require specific computers to speak to the American air defense system, to the American AWACS, to the other American fighters in the US Air Force. Now, these are available, those same kind of computers, radars, etc. are available in Europe. They don't have this much of a basic infrastructure problem as we have. We'll have to go in de novo. We'll have to see how to make it talk to the S-400 surface to air missile, how to talk to our AWACS, how to talk to our other fighter aircraft. And the infrastructure on the ground, very expensive. Maintenance, one flying hour of Su-35 type A, $40,000 per hour. And the entire American fleet of the J-35s, it will cost you almost $1.3 trillion to maintain over a period of 50 years to the Americans. Why is it so expensive to maintain? Because the stealth coat, that gets damaged, it has to be repaired, repainted, the stealth covering. Then you have to keep updating the computer software, with every change in that some other new missile system you are adding, you have to update the computer software. And so therefore, there are a lot of ifs and buts about this aircraft, which we will get to know only once we get a concrete offer from the Americans, black and white. This is what you are giving you, this is what you can't touch, this is what you can't do, etc. That, end user agreements that they are very stiff in. Limited sovereignty. You can't, you'll have to tell the Americans where the aircraft are based. You'll have to allow periodic inspections of this aircraft to see that you have not tampered with anything. And the very fact that the Americans are prepared to give it to you now shows that they trust you now, that you won't pass on their secrets to the Russians. That if the S-400, when this flies, they'll pick it up. Quite obviously, they have to pick it up. Then that will reveal the weaknesses in the cover of this aircraft, and that would be very damaging if that reaches the Russians. So the Americans are now sure that we won't give it to the Russians. That's why they are offering you the aircraft. But we still haven't gotten a concrete black and white offer in black and white, so that we know what exactly are we being given. What is on offer? Will they allow the manufacture? Yes, no. Will they allow maintenance and overhaul and repair facilities to be set up in India? All these source codes, will they share? Will they share the technology? All that is in the air right now. So frankly, the biggest problem is the timeline in which this aircraft will be made available to you. If it is going to come 10 years later, then the AMCA is good enough. We've got the AMCA already now. We need a stopgap to fill up this 10 years period in which the AMCA is developed. So, unless it is made available here and now, tomorrow, next year, I am afraid it does not meet the bill. It does not meet the bill, because by the time it comes, the AMCA would already have come in. So, to that extent, we may have to take a closer look at the Su-57, and like I said, they have given a lot of sweeteners and they are tried and tested people. After the stab in the back that we got from the Biden administration over the jet engine deal for the Tejas aircraft and the AMCA, we will have to be very cautious. Be very cautious. We will have to develop that trust with the new administration, and that proof of the pudding will come as to how fast do we get the General Electric engines that we have paid for. So, like I said, let us wait for things to fructify. As of now, if it does not come immediately, we may not need it. A better option may be the Su-57. All depends on the concrete offer. The moment that is made, then you can evaluate it better. I am sure the Air Force and the Ministry of Defence will carry out a very thorough evaluation of the aircraft, very thorough evaluation of the kind of problems that we could face in terms of infrastructure, maintenance costs, running operational costs, etc., and the restrictions, how much we are prepared to accept, how much not. Time frame will be crucial. Thank you.